Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. This is going to be a short update just on the circumstances surrounding the incident from June 22nd. And it's aimed at providing an update on the tragic events and making sure that we could also address some misinformation that is circulating. So before we get into the details, I would like to begin by setting the larger context for this incident and also establish why this particular incident is not going to derail the government reforms already in progress. The past year of reforms led by the new administration has been anchored in unraveling Ethiopia's transition and true potential for democratization. The various policy and legal measures that have been taken, in addition to opening up the political space and the media space as well, is a direct attempt to realize these rights and liberties that are guaranteed in the Constitution. Similarly, as you would recall, the amnesty law, which gave mercy to more than 13,000 individuals and groups that had been convicted of crimes against the constitutional order and armed struggle, through this amnesty law, they were provided the opportunity to be integrated back into the fabric of Ethiopian society. And it's with this, through this amnesty law that Brigadier General Ege, who is one such individual, was given amnesty, and he had been imprisoned for many years, as you may have recalled, for orchestrating a coup on the federal government in a similar fashion previously. So the past year has been firmly rooted in a strong political will and commitment to practicing the democratic principles of peaceful transition of power, as well as engagement of political thought and political differences through the exchange of ideas. So a shift away from engaging through the bullet and engaging more in terms of ideas. And we have seen this peaceful transition of power at the prime ministerial level. This is something that many of us could attest to. The same peaceful transition of power as well at the presidential level. And also a year ago, the same transition of power between the chiefs of staff of the National Defense Forces. Through these reforms, we have also seen political parties, individuals, and journalists formerly charged under the anti-terrorism law return to Ethiopia and engage freely and responsibly. And this is also a particular milestone that we should not forget. In relation to these milestones, many cite that the ability to talk openly and publicly about their political leanings, their political stance, and then be able to return home safely without any repression and without any harm to them is something that is also a key manifestation of what these reforms have been able to achieve. So this is definitely also a commitment to civil and political liberties that have been manifesting over the past year as a result of the reforms. So again, to set back the context, despite all these opportunities to practice and nurture this burgeoning democracy for all, there are elements, and we've seen these pop up throughout the year, whose privileges have been affected by the shifting status quo that the new administration brings in terms of the reforms. And there are also elements focused on quick shortcuts to power through fear-mongering and disruption as well. They have also been focused on undermining the reforms of the current administration, which are a reflection of the many sacrifices that Ethiopians have given over the past year, including their lives. So the June 22nd incident is one such example of attempts to backtrack the progress of the new administration, what they have been making or what the administration has been making. And this attempt, which was foiled, targeting many others as well in addition to the news that you have, was contained through the effective efforts and collaboration between both the federal and regional security and law enforcement apparatus. Nevertheless, the government is also continuing and will continue undeterred on the path that it has been forging since April 2018 with a commitment to democratize Ethiopia. So despite the speculation that this is a derailment to some of the reforms that have been taken and a derailment to the progress that the government is making, this as an isolated incident by no way is going to jeopardize the reforms that the government is making, and in any case would actually accelerate the process and the engagement of the government in that regard. And this focus has been in ensuring that the solid foundations are built through institutions and through many other things. And as solid foundations are the basis for many of these things, the government is committed to reinforcing these foundations. Having given you this beginning context, Delving a little bit deeper into the particular details with regard to what happened in Bahar Dar, it's important to walk you through some of the cases for the purpose of clarifying misinformation that's circulating. As had been already shared with you during the Monday press briefing, the coup attempt in Bahar Dar occurred in the early evening of June 22nd, orchestrated by Brigadier General Oge and his agents, who he's now deceased. The attempt happened in 4 locations in orchestration with 4 leads at these particular locations, but there were also other agents in collaboration with him as well. The first location is at the Amhara Region President's Office, where Oge was also physically present coordinating this, although he was not physically present in the room, but he was outside coordinating this. And this is the location where Dr. Ambacho Makonnen and Izaze Wase were assassinated. The exchange of fire also left Migbar Kabada, the Attorney General, wounded on that day, and other members of the Amhara regional government leadership survived this attack at that location. The second location was at a guest house where members of the leadership temporarily reside until they're given permanent residency outside of that location. So this was the location where General Oge was also residing and commanding the operation firm. So at the earlier hour, the first incident occurred at the president's office, and then finalizing the assassination of Dr. Ambacho Makonnen and Izaze Wase, he moved to the guest house. So evidence shows that there was a move to the guest house where he was residing, but also commanding the rest of the operations. Here, he also held some members of the leadership hostage, including the region's communications head or communications director. And at this point, we have also information suggesting that he had communicated to the Amhara Mass Media Agency, the Amhara Mass Media Agency head, informing them that the attacks had been finalized in these locations, and that to wait for an issue of a statement regarding the next procedures that he was going to be taking, or the next operations. The third location is at the Regional Police Commission office, where the head of the police commission, the commissioner himself, and the regional special force commander were held hostage, among other members of the security apparatus. And because he was leading the security apparatus, he had called them in for a meeting, telling them that there's some issues to discuss, but he wasn't there. However, they were held hostage so that they're not able to foil some of the attempts that had been made already by that point. And then the last location is the home of the Deputy Police Commissioner. He was also on the list to be assassinated, and he escaped narrowly. But he had been called into the meeting at the police commission, or the office of the police commission. However, because he had suspected that something might have happened, he instead had gone to his house. This is another fourth location in which Oge had also mobilized for the assassination of one of the leadership members. So furthermore, we have information that on the same evening, late evening, the federal and regional intervention got stronger, he escaped from the guest house, and it said that he escaped in a V8 accompanied by other cars, and in a shootout with the regional special forces was wounded on that evening of June 22nd. The next information that we have regarding Brigadier General Oge is on June 24th, where he was killed in a shootout by the regional special forces on the outskirts of Bahar Dar. And this is in a small place called Zanzalema, as he was attempting to flee towards Gondar in a small bajaj. So sustaining those wounds, he was also engaged in a shootout with the police that had already had information that he was heading that way. So regarding further developments, while the incident is still under investigation, there is an investigation, a high-level investigation group that had been put together to follow up these details. So far, 212 suspects have been apprehended within the Amhara region, including their weaponry in relation to the Bahar Dar coup attempt. When we move to the Addis Ababa updates, in Addis Ababa, in relation to General Sa'ara Makonnen's and Major General Gazai Abarra's killings, a corporal, Masafint Tagabu Makonnen, that's his name, has been apprehended, and an additional 42 individuals, so together with him, 43 individuals have also been apprehended, with various weaponry and planning documents. So as I had mentioned earlier, there's indication to show that, and this would also unravel itself related to the investigations as more details come out. But there was a larger attempt, which also included other levels of leadership as well. So these planning documents somehow also indicated that. With regards to Skandar's first question, with regards to whether there's a connection between the attacks, I believe yesterday the high-level entity that I was describing earlier on have already advised that there will be issuing further statements regarding that, and we're expecting them to issue further investigation details in relation to that and other issues between the Bahar Dar and Addis Ababa assassinations on Sunday. So I would defer to them on that. Elias, on your question of whether there's what was with regards to the larger plan to target officials and who they are, again, I'm just giving you updates as they come. But because this is still an investigation that's open, there's a lot of details that I have not received yet, and that will not be apparent at this moment in time. So we need to make sure that the due process goes through this high-level team that I was mentioning earlier, which includes the National Defense Forces, the Attorney General's Office, the Federal Police Commissioner, and as well as NIS, the National Information and Security Service Agency. So as they're undergoing these investigations and as they're coming up with more information, they would also be communicating directly with the public. So I would leave that in that bucket. With regards to the suspect list, I have indication that for the Amhara region, a majority of them have been caught, the 212 that I mentioned. But because it's still an ongoing operation, and as further investigations are pursued, there is a possibility that some more suspects may also be apprehended. So we'll also wait on those updates. Elias, on your question regarding the Toraja Lodge incident, I don't have any information on that. If there is any information, you could also directly contact us as a follow-up, and we'll try to get that information for you. But at this point, I don't have any information on that. Leah, with regards to whether the federal and regional governments are on the same page, they definitely are on the same page. Particularly, as I had mentioned to you, this high-level entity is the one that's spearheading the investigations in both the Amhara region and the federal region, and it has also representation and connection at the regional level. So this is being organized and a coordinated effort in terms of the operations as well. So there is a definite linkage between the two. Coletta, with regards to your question of whether the PM is to reshuffle or re-strategize, part of the initial reforms have also looked at that already when we began in 2018, April 2018. Part of institution building has also looked at the security sector, has also looked at the Ministry of Defense and the different security apparatuses and the law enforcement entities. So as part of institution building and ensuring that the right people are there, that the public has got direct information from these entities and that the perception of fear around these entities is kind of melted away, there has been a lot of re-strategizing and reshuffling. If anything, these efforts that had already been begun over the past year are going to be further. As I had mentioned earlier on about foundation building, this is something that's going to be strengthened as part of institution building. So not as a direct result of this, but part of the ongoing reforms are going to be carried on. For the last question, sorry, I didn't catch your name. Tom, with regards to where the Prime Minister was on Saturday, he was in Addis Ababa. And I know that there's speculation with regards to where his presence was, but he delivered his press briefing or his briefing to the media within his residence in Addis Ababa here. Why there was only one media is because of that late hour in which media had been called, and the ones that were in close proximity to the Prime Minister's office at that point was the Amhara mass media agency. Okay, so we'll keep you updated when there's further information, but also feel free to contact us directly at an individual level for further updates. Thank you.